safari, the call to bond, embrace to. We took a short break last Sunday where we took time to pray with us and for us. And we continue now with the second half, where we are in lesson number 5. For those that are visiting with us, you are handed over our book. It's lesson number 5, Embracing Healthy Relationships in the Family. Embracing healthy relationships in the family. In today's lesson, we seek to help the learner appreciate the importance of embracing healthy relationships in the family. We seek to help the learner appreciate the importance of healthy relationships in the family. And our objectives are to help us understand the importance of having healthy relationships in the family. But number 2, appreciate the importance of relating well in the family. But lastly, I'll be asking us to make a commitment to build a strong and healthy relationship in the family. I'll be asking us to make a commitment by building a strong and healthy relationships in the family. And so those will be our objectives for today. Long before God established the church, family already existed. He created man and woman and gave them the command to be fruitful and increase in number. Apparently, when we open the scriptures in Matthew 28 and verse number 18, Jesus gives a command to his disciples. After his ministry here on earth, he actually gives a command to his disciples, which we call the Great Commission, and he tells them, go into all the world and make disciples, baptizing them in the name of God the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything. But apparently, at the heart of that command is the aspect of discipleship. I submitted to us that this is not the very first time we get this command, because we have another command that God gives the first creation, and we find it that although the church has the responsibility to ensure spiritually healthy, growing families, the mandate, the command to be fruitful and multiply and subdue the earth was not given to the church, but to the man God created and his wife Eve. And so, it is in God's will that you are fruitful and increase in number. And the Great Commission in Matthew 28 and the Great Command in Genesis 1:28, or whatever we may call it, a blessing, it is all related, and it narrows down to the family unit. Jesus spends 3.5 years with his disciples, and then he releases them out there and he gives them a command. God in the Garden of Eden creates Adam and Eve, and he gives them a command. He tells them, be fruitful and multiply, subdue the earth. And so as we go through this lesson, embracing healthy relationships in the family, we want to consider 5 things. We shall consider why healthy family relationships. We shall also consider how to embrace healthy parent-child relationships. We shall consider child-parent relationships, we shall consider the benefits of honoring parents, and lastly, sibling-to-sibling relationships. In Genesis 1:28, still I didn't get it. I lost it or I have it? Oh, I got it. Why healthy family relationships? God wants the earth to be filled with the people who can subdue it. God wants the earth to be filled with the people who can subdue it. Because without healthy working relationships, the command to subdue the earth may not be realized. And so the key word there is healthy. The key word there is healthy. It must be healthy. Apparently, I carried a newspaper here today. And in this newspaper, the headline for Saturday, February 10th, 2018, the headline was what? Is marriage facing a crisis? Or is marriage facing crisis? The joy, the pain. When God gives the very first command, the Bible says he blessed them and he said to them, be fruitful, increase in number, fill the earth, subdue it, rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. That was God's command. And so I ask this question: is marriage facing a crisis? Sound team, kindly help us even as we answer that question. Allow me to say God is greatly interested in his image, or in his exact image being replicated all across the earth. God is greatly interested in his image being replicated all across the earth. Malachi 2:15 helps us in that. It says, has not the Lord made them one? in flesh and in spirit. They are his. Why one? Because he was seeking godly offspring. So guard yourself in your spirit and do not break faith with the wife of your youth. Israel, fathering crisis, also began with a marriage crisis. We've just seen the newspaper for February 10, 2018, asking the big question, is marriage facing a crisis? And we've seen statistics of how many people have divorced, how many divorce cases that have been filed at the court, and how many children are living without both of their parents. Israel's fathering crisis also began with a marriage crisis. Malachi 2:14 says, you ask why? It is because the Lord is acting as the witness between you and the wife of your youth, because you have broken faith with her, though she is your partner, the wife of your marriage covenant. Therefore, God is concerned, or is very concerned about the family environment. He is concerned about how children are raised and how family members relate with each other or with one another. In order to meet God's expectations, we need to have good working parent-child relationship and good working child-parent relationships. But it begins at the point of marriage. When there is a crisis in marriage, it trickles down and affects who? The children. The men of Israel were walking away from their wives, and it had led to a full-blown fathering crisis. God saw the fatherless Israel, and he told them how to fix it. And this is what he tells them: love the wife of your youth, he said, and turn your hearts back to your children. And I believe it's the same thing that he's telling us today. With the crisis that we are facing in marriages, with the divorce cases that are there. Recently, 2 Sundays ago, when Dr. Tuomburu stood here and spoke about marriage, people picked one item concerning divorce, and they began discussing it and looking at the option and how we should do it. And some even asking questions for their neighbor, you know? You know the way you ask for your friend, and yet you are asking for yourself? Because people are trying to look for ways out of marriage. People are trying to look for reasons as to why they should not stay with that wife they have or with that spouse they have. What does God tell Israel? Love the wife of your youth, he said, and turn your hearts back towards your children. God is expecting you to hang in there no matter what. What's the implication of this is that God, the aggressive creator, wants to fill up the universe with beings who care for him, but also care for each other. The family is the social unit God intended to use to fill up the whole world with representations of his loving character. It's a place for nurturing and developing babies until they are mature enough to go out of the family as adults and multiply his image in other surroundings. At the heart of the Great Commission is to make disciples. And that, friend, starts in our homes. Making disciples, when Jesus commands his disciples to go out there and make disciples, He was not asking us, he is not asking us to leave our homes and go to China, or to leave our homes and go to some far country over there and begin to preach there and make disciples there. Discipleship begins in your own house. Discipleship begins with your family. That is the very first center of what? Discipleship. That is where you make discipleship. That is where you live by example. That is where you keep your vows. That is where you keep your promises. That is where you model. So that when you go out there, you have already done what? Sorted out back at home. No wonder God tells Israel that for you to be able to fix this problem, the marriage crisis problem, the fatherless crisis problem, love the wife of your youth and turn your hearts towards or back toward your children. I would like us to get into a discussion. This is the time you look at your neighbor nicely and you begin to discuss, how do you treat or handle some things that are precious, a blessing, and important? Let's discuss that with your neighbor, 2 or 3, just for how do you treat or handle some things that are precious, a blessing, and important. How do you treat or handle some things that are precious, a blessing, and important? Let's sample out the answers quickly. Volunteers, and I hope our mics are good at this time. Volunteers, can we have people upstairs, downstairs? Oh, we have mics. Just put up your hand and the people with the microphones will come close to you and will hear the response. How do you treat or handle some things that are precious, a blessing, and important? Downstairs, who wants to go first? What you have discussed? I want to sample some response before we proceed. Oh, there. Omwambia next to you there.
Praise God. My name is Jessica Boto. We discussed here with my neighbor. We wanted to put out first what are the precious things that we have in the family apart from the people, because it says about things. It didn't say about people. So we said things of values are gold, we have cars, we have many, many things, a plot, a house. You handle them with care because they are precious to you, they cost you time and money and savings. So you really need to be careful about them for them not to break, to get lost, or to be spoiled.
Thank you. You handle them with care. You handle them with care. Somebody else? Anybody else who wants to go? There being nobody else. Oh, there is. Where? Oh, okay. Where? Put your hand up high so that we can see it from here. Okay. You have the microphone?
Okay, my name is Elizabeth.
Yes, hello.
My name is Elizabeth Kiano, and with my neighbor here, we said that things that you handle with care are things like your property, your title deeds,
Title deed had to come in.
yes. So you have to care for them. You have to keep them safely. You have to look for protection for them. And you have to have security. That is, if you like title deeds, you can even keep them in the bank so that nobody can steal them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those of you that are looking for land, go around that area. There your land will be protected. There was somebody else. I heard a man's voice.
Yes.
Okay. Oh.
Praise God.
Oh, okay.
God is good
All the time.
and all the time. Yes, my name is Stephen. And according to a discussion with my neighbor here, we just picked a simple example, like you are at school and you've been given a simple exam to do, or not a simple exam to do, but like final exam, KCSE. So we discussed in a such way that as a student, first of all, if you hear something like exam, you give your all attention, pay total attention, and you give your forecast, 100% of your forecast, and you just take care and handle it in a sensitive manner. Amen. So
Thank you.
just take care.
Thank you. What we just read earlier, which you have in your manuals, it says, God, the aggressive creator, wants to fill up his universe with beings who care for him and care for each other. The family is the social unit God intended to use to fill up the world with representations of his loving character. It's a place for nurturing, developing babies until they mature enough to go out of the family as adults and multiply his image in the surroundings. Apparently, care is at the heart of God. And he talks about care for him and care for each other. And so how do we enhance healthy parent relationships? How do we enhance healthy parent relationships? I'll be seeking to answer that question, but before I answer, I want to take a pause and ask all the mothers to stand up. All the mothers, would you rise up to your feet? You know you're a mother, whether a single mother or all the mothers are upstanding. Happy Mother's Day. We celebrate you for bringing life. We celebrate you for putting in more hours and making sure that both men and the children are well taken care of. We celebrate you. Shall we appreciate our mothers again in the house? Gladly take your seats. Let me ask all the fathers to stand. Just in case. All the fathers to stand. Fathers are few. Oh, there are many. Wow, wow. All the fathers standing. Apparently, today is not Father's Day. Father's Day might come somewhere there in June. But I'll be speaking to us this afternoon. And not only us, but everyone that is aspiring to be a father. And so I will ask the women to help me even as we try to speak to fathers, and even as I'll be speaking to us. I'm not asking the women to leave. I'm asking you to stay on and listen to what God has to tell us this afternoon. You may gladly take your seats. Why am I doing this? Because fathers are key to the survival of their families and even the nation. Fathers are key to the survival of the families and even the nation. So how do we enhance healthy parent-child relationships? By cultivating a healthy relationship with one's spouse. It begins with making sure that you stay at that point. Of course, we went through this the other time, and it has also been discussed in many forums. Ephesians 5:21, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. This is where it begins. The two must be on the same page. Parents are responsible for setting a positive tone, healthy rhythm, and atmosphere in the home that will enable relationships to flourish. So it begins with the two. When the newspaper flashes the headline, "Is marriage facing a crisis?" The joy, the pain, it all narrows down to what is eating our society. Israel's crisis began with a marriage crisis. Israel's crisis began with a marriage crisis. Malachi 2:14 says, "You ask why? It is because the Lord is acting as the witness between you and the wife of your youth, because you have broken faith with her, though she is your partner, the wife of your marriage covenant." For us to be able to enhance healthy parent-child relationships, then we must, by all means, keep our vows of marriage. Why? Because a real dad keeps his promises. Did I say I'll speak to fathers? A real dad keeps his promises. He chooses to work through the tough times for the sake of his children. You know, we stand here, and I think our pastor in charge of First Family stands here many times, and I think you are doing it last Saturday in Buruburu, wedding people, and we are so much in a hurry to do the vows for better, for poorer, for richer, for what, for what. But then after that is done, we say for better, for worse, isn't it? But we are not ready when it comes to what? The worst. I want out. And just the other day, you so much wanted in. But now what? Now you want out. A real dad keeps his promises. He chooses to walk through the tough times for the sake of his family. Why am I saying this? It's because children will be secure and responsive to parents who keep this God-given order. If husbands who do not love their wives, their children will silently resent and dismiss you as a role model. Malachi 2:15 says, has not the Lord made them one in flesh and in spirit? They are his. Why? One, because he was seeking for a godly offspring. So guard yourself in your spirit and do not do what? Break faith with the wife of your youth. God has never called man to lower the standard. We are to raise the standard. And we are to raise the standard by listening to the one who set the standard. Who set the standard? And what did he say? Listen to what he says in Malachi 2:16. He says, I hate divorce, says the Lord of Israel. Not that God doesn't lower the standards, not that he doesn't mince words. He just puts it right on the table. Why does God hate divorce so much? I think I have an idea why he does that. God hates divorce because it breaks something up that he doesn't want broken up, which is what? The family. God hates divorce because it devastates women when their husbands abandon them for other women, and vice versa. God hates divorce because it kills children. It crushes children. It extinguishes the fire in their little emotional hearts. God hates divorce because he loves children. And children need fathers. Malachi 2:16, I hate divorce, says the Lord, the God of Israel. God hates divorce because it sets in motion a destructive pattern for future generations. Adult children from divorced homes divorce at a rate 4 times greater than the children from where there was no divorce. When divorce enters into the family chain, it tends to stay there unless Jesus Christ intervenes. But you say, it's not my fault. You don't know what he did to me. It's not my fault. No-fault divorce has led to a marriage crisis. And right on its heels has followed what? A fathering crisis. It's impossible to separate the marriage crisis from the fathering crisis. They are inseparable as identical twins. Just as one twin comes first and then shortly thereafter comes the other, so the marriage crisis shows up first, and then on its heels came the fathering crisis. And Malachi is clear to say, so guard yourself, guard yourself in spirit, and do not break faith with the wife of your youth. And the big question comes, what do we do, Pastor? What should we do? I have the answer there. Do you want to raise the standard? Then there is something very specific you can do. If you are married, here is your assignment. Do what? Did you say leave? Cleave. Don't leave. Stay true to your vows, because Malachi 4:6 has something to say to the father who has already left, and it also has something to say to every father who has stayed. He says in Malachi 4:6, he will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. Apparently, these were God's last words that he spoke in the Old Testament. And for 400 years, he never spoke again. If you were God, or if you were going to say your very last words and you knew you were not going to speak, not for 4 years, but for 400 years, what is it that you will say that you want it to remain in the hearts and the minds of people for all those years? When God chooses to speak his very last words, what does he say? He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. God finishes the Old Testament by talking about fathers and their children. Israel was in the midst of a fathering crisis, and the answer to the crisis, or in the answer to Israel's problems, lay at the feet of fathers. God's blessings was contingent upon the repentant hearts of fathers turned back to their children. Are you surprised that Israel had a fathering crisis too? It shouldn't surprise us when we read the whole book of Malachi. Israel's fathering crisis began with a marriage crisis. And that's why this weekend, coming weekend on Saturday, we will be here for a family conference. Family. We want to talk matters family, a precursor to the conference or to the family fest that is coming in a week's time. We will congregate here on Saturday, the whole day, because we must address this issue concerning family. A father who walks away from his family has walked away from fathering, and when he walks away from fathering, he has withdrawn the very thing his children need to grow to be healthy adults. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers, or else I will come with a curse. How do we enhance this relationship? Number two, how do we enhance? Number two, by recognizing that children are precious gift and a gift from God. It starts with the parents. We must be committed to each other. We must be committed to our children. We must be committed to staying together. But then, we need to recognize that children are what? Precious and a gift from God. I've already said a father who walks away from his family has walked away from the fathering and has withdrawn the very thing that his children need to grow up to be healthy adults. So whether biological or adopted or foster children are a great privilege to have and should not be treated as a burden or a nuisance. They are to be seen and also heard. They are to be seen and also heard. It's an honor and a privilege to be a parent or a guardian. We should therefore work at overcoming negative family cultural patterns that may hinder parents and guardians from appreciating children and diligently playing your role. Actually, Psalm 127, verse 3 to 5 says, "Sons are a heritage from the Lord. Children are a reward from him. Like arrows in the hands of a warrior are sons born in one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be put to shame when they contend with their enemies at the gate." Allow me to give you some few statistics that kind of will shock you. In his book, Fatherless America, David Wilkerson states, and I quote, "The United States of America is becoming an increasingly fatherless society. A generation ago, an American child could reasonably grow up with his or her father. Today, an American child can reasonably expect not to. This astonishing fact is reflected in many statistics, but here are two most important things. Tonight, about 40% of American children will go to sleep in homes in which their fathers do not live. Everybody, sooner or later, sits at the banquet of the consequences of a fatherless society. What are some of these consequences? Allow me to give you statistics. 85% of all children who exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. Those are statistics that were conducted in the United States. 90% of all homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes. 71% of all high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. 75% of adolescent patients in substance abuse centers are from fatherless homes. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 85% of all youth sitting in prisons grew up in fatherless homes. 80% of rapists come from fatherless homes. It's that bad. In Kenya, and as we have seen in this newspaper that I just displayed to you, some of the things that I captured from the same and through research, 55% of children live with both of their biological parents. When it says 55%, what does that mean? There is a 45% that is out there living with one parent, and most preferably not the father. How do we enhance this? Parent-child relationship is by being warm and affectionate with the children. How do we enhance healthy parent-child relationship? Number 3 is by being warm and affectionate with the children. When a child is sure of the parents' love and affection, he or she will respond with obedience to their instructions, thereby avoiding the path of delinquency. It will also encourage the child at whatever age to blossom. At the baptism of Jesus and the transfiguration, God is portrayed as warm and affectionate with his Son, Jesus Christ. That we can read in Matthew 3:16 to 17. Affection and warmth will require that from time to time a parent would say, well done. A parent will say, I'm proud of you. A parent will say, I am sorry, or I have faith. You can do it when that child has fallen short. And this is what is eating our society right now. Children are leaving home simply to go out there and look for things that they haven't gotten in their families. If they never found affection, they will go out there and look for affection. If they never found love, they will go out there and look for love. If they never found anybody to appreciate them, anybody to say, I am sorry, anybody just to tell them, you can do it. And so they go out there and they find somebody out there who tells them what? You can do it. I love you. I affirm you. That's why family is very key. God is looking for a godly offspring. Human beings crave to be appreciated. Human beings crave to be loved. Human beings crave to be forgiven. And if a child is not finding appreciation at the home, if they are not finding love at home, if they are not finding forgiveness at home, they will go out there and look for it by all means. Think about it as a parent. If your child were in trouble, would you be the first person he or she would call or run to? Or would they run to their peer for advice, like in the story of Amnon, David's son, who was misadvised by his friend Jonadab to rape his sister Tamar, as told in 2 Samuel chapter 13. Parents, we are advised not to be quick to punish a perceived wrongdoing for which a child has not been instructed or warned about, because this would frustrate a child. Listen to what Dr. James Dobson says, and I quote, "I believe with everything within me that husbands hold keys to the preservation of the family." There is need first to instruct the child, and then you can go ahead and correct the same. Much good teaching can be nullified by the influence of a bad example. To teach right and to live wrong is like feeding our children on good food with one hand and poison with the other hand. How do we enhance healthy parent-child relationship? This is number what? Number 4. It's by finding answers to the child's questions. Finding answers to the child's questions. God instructed the Israelites to always be ready to answer their children's questions. This requires a lot of attention, a lot of listening, a lot of answering questions without getting tired. And you can read more in Deuteronomy 6:20 to 25. But then, children of the younger age are bombarded with a lot of information, both positive and negative. A proper understanding of what is going on around them is useful in strengthening the values already learned, which will help them making proper choices as they grow. John M. Drescher has penned down it, saying it's estimated that by the age of 13, a child would have asked 500,000, that is 500,000 questions. These are therefore 500,000 ways through which a parent can influence the life of the child positively, thereby creating a lasting bond. If a parent fails to, they will look elsewhere or to their peer for answers. But number 5, how do we enhance the parent-child relationship? Healthy relationship. By spending regular and quality time with the children. By spending regular and quality time with the child. Help me tell your neighbor, the one you are avoiding, it's by spending regular and quality time. Children want your presence, not presents. You didn't hear me. Children want your presence and not presents. Because we are spending so much time, some of us are doing MBA, some of us are doing what, and from work we go where? We go to class, and from class we come home, and by the time we come home, everybody is asleep. And when they wake up in the morning, they find you bought chocolate. When they wake up in the morning, they find you left something, you bought a present and you put it there, and off you went back to work the following day. Children want your presence, not presents. So you've got to spend quality time with them. Just a couple of weeks ago, allow me to give this testimony. We were having some funeral meetings down in Woodley. And these people, as they had come to just to help one of their own who had been bereaved, our brother Samuel Kigondu, I was so happy to hear these architects, people from the architectural profession, his colleagues and friends saying they have known him, they have known his children since they were small, because he would carry them with one hand and with the other hand he's drawing and teaching them. In other words, you can bring them along to where you are. You can take them along. What if they mess up? Yes, let them mess up. I know that's what you're asking. Because you like your things to be nicely organized, and so you can't bring your children that lest they make the place messy. Bring them, let them mess up. Because they want your presence, not presents. Around the same time, I found myself in a fix. I was supposed to pick my daughter from school, and I was supposed to go to Muranga and conduct a burial the same day. So I wondered, what do I do? I left my house. I picked my daughter from school, and I drove with her all the way to Muranga for the funeral service. And while we were there, some people asking, hey, Pastor, why did Pastor have to come with the daughter? Excuse me, she is my daughter. She needs to know what I do, that the Father also buries the dead. So if you had a problem with that, that was my daughter. And that was one way of me spending time with. Because I would have delegated. Yeah. But I didn't delegate. I said, come and buy an imba. Even this last week, I missed a very key meeting here because I had to drop her to school. And thank you, Senior Pastor, for allowing me to be a father, by giving me permission to miss that meeting. I asked him and he said, go. He didn't tell me, this meeting is very key. You must be there. He understands what fathers do. So you have no excuse to leave that daughter of yours or to leave that son of yours. In my former life, I used to carry a camera in one hand and my daughter Patience hold her in another hand. Those of you that knew me in my former life when I used to do what that gentleman is doing videos. And I have taken her all the functions. That is why we are this tight. I say this with lots of pride, that we are tight. You know, it can be so busy, and then you think you can justify your busyness by neglecting the family. There's a book I am reading here by Steve Farrar. I'm chewing this book. It says, Finishing Strong, Going the Distance for Your Family. And it talks about the ambush of a neglected family. Many people are suffering from the ambush of a neglected family. There are other ambushes in there. You can get your copy in the bookshops. And I was not paid to advertise, but thank God we are not live on TV, so it's only this audience. Spending regular and quality time with the children. A story is told of a 5-year-old who came to the father calling, Dad, Dad. But the father answered, Not now, son. He came back 5 years later, again calling, Dad, Dad. And the answer was the same. When he turned 15 years, the father now had time and went calling, Son, son. But the son had learned how to keep himself busy and answered, Not now, Dad. That is bad. True? That is when you know that you should have abandoned everything and be there for your family. Psychologists have said that if a child learns a value but does not put it into practice before age 12, they may never pick it up or consider it important when they are older. And so I ask us, dads, make sure you are in time, or you spend time with your children. Make sure you get home in time for dinner so that you can spend time with the family. But number, is it 6? Is it 5? 6. The one that is not in the here and is not anywhere, but the answers, now that you like to be given answers, lest you hold me in the parking at this one you didn't say. It says, nurture the gifts and the talents. Yeah, it's not in my notes or anywhere. Apparently there's some editing issues there. You can crucify us CED pastors. We own that mistake. But then we also enhance or embrace these health relationships by learning to use courteous words with children. Learning to use courteous words with children. Learning to use courteous words with children. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Children would also want to hear words like, thank you, I am sorry, I was wrong, I failed to keep up my promise, please forgive me. Parents should not be afraid to admit when they are wrong. But you know where the problem is? You know, in our dialects, in our mother tongues, many of us, the word thank you is not there. Let me look at my wife, because I know in hers there is a mixture of, what's the word thank you in your? Not newega. Newega is not thank you. Newega is it's okay. In fact, that is rude. Tell somebody it's okay. Thank you. No, what's the word thank you in your mother tongue? What about I'm sorry? And that is what we are bringing up. That is what is eating our society. Because we have grown up knowing that it's our right. And children grow up and they don't know how to say thank you. They don't know how to say sorry. They don't know how to appreciate. And so we have grown up. You know, once upon a time you were a child. True? And so the things that you learned, because you learned it is your right, you never do what? Say sorry or say thank you. You step on people and you think it's okay. Newega. That in Greek, it means it's okay. That Greek. No, it's not thank you. I know. It's not thank you. Look for a word for thank you, but now that one is not thank you. Newega cannot be thank you. And that's what is eating our society. But then we enhance by partnering with God and raising up children. We partner with God in the raising up of the children. Friends, your opportunity to mold and shape their lives will be gone forever. And so, you've got to partner with God. You've got to partner with God. And at times, you've got to leave everything to prayer. You've got to allow prayer to take the center stage. Sometimes the best a parent can do for an adult child is to pray for him or her, leaving the results to God. The parent should also be lovingly available just in case they return your embrace and comfort. I wish there was time for us to do that discussion, but apparently we don't have time for that question. We need to move faster. I had time and I have used it pretty well. How do we enhance or embrace child-parent relationships? Younger children are commanded to obey their parents. You are to teach your children obedience. Obedience requires that a child listens and follows through training and instructions by a parent. Parents, we are responsible for teaching our children and enforcing obedience. This is neither the pastor's nor the school teacher's responsibility. It is our responsibility as parents. And obedience to parents is not a request, neither is it a suggestion, but a command. As we see, older children are commanded to honor their parents. Older children are commanded to honor their parents. It says, honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land of the Lord, in the land the Lord your God is giving you. Apparently, this commandment also has a promise attached to it. But also, God expects us, older children, God expects older children to diligently and committedly take care of and help aging parents. You have a responsibility to take care of and help aging parents. But let me tell you where the problem is. Sometimes it's not that we are not able to take care of our parents. Most of the times what is happening is that we have long debates on who should do what. Who should pick mom from home. Me, I'm busy. You know, I just started my lessons the other day, so I can't make it. And as the discussion goes on, what happens? Mom or dad is suffering wherever they are. Because you are doing what? Debating. Oh, you know I did it last time. Now, why can't so-and-so do it? It is expected. I know that one. I'm stepping on people's toes. Let me leave the toes and come to the carpet. Let me step on the carpet. But God expects older children to diligently and committedly take care of and help aging parents. But also God expects older children to have respect for their parents. God expects older children to have respect for their parents. It says, listen to your father who gave you life, and do not despise your mother when she is old. And so if children have to disagree, do so respectfully without taking away the parents' dignity. But then God expects older children to ensure the general welfare of aging parents, which includes protection and a healthy status. I will not belabor that. But lastly, on that, last but not least, we have two more and we'll be done. Forgive your parent for past hurts or failures. If you want to have a healthy relationship between you and your parent, forgive your parent for past hurts or failures. Some of us have been carrying hurts from our parents for years, and we bring them into our marriages. We bring the hearts that we got from our parents, we bring them to our marriages, we bring them to our places of work, we bring them into the church and into the fellowships and into everywhere we go. And you know what? Hurting people hurt people. You didn't hear me. What did I say? Hurting people hurt people. And so, because you don't know what was done to me, you don't know what he did. No, we don't know, and even don't want to know. Let go and let God. Forgive. Do you know that the moment you do that, your life becomes lighter? Your load becomes lighter. Your dad or your mom may have hurt you, but today we have an opportunity for you to let go and allow God just to minister to you. You may have been hurt so deeply. They could have done something to you. Probably it concerns education. Probably you were not taken to the best of schools. Probably some things did not go right, and you have all the reasons to carry them. Today, let go and let God. Because hurting people hurt others. Let's finish this study. Of course, you've seen there it says, many are sick and unproductive because of not forgiving parents for past hurts and failures. So if you are sick and unproductive, the medicine, the antidote is there. Let go and let God. What are the benefits of honoring parents? Allow me to use a very familiar word. Recently, we have seen roads being marked in the name of bypass. Why are some roads known as bypass? By? How? To avoid traffic jam. In other words, if you use the normal one, there is a traffic jam. So you use the bypass. I want to show you some bypass. Welcome to the bypasses. The benefits of honoring parents. Bypass number 1. It says, so that children may live long. So bypass to wellness and blessings is to do what? Honor your parent. Bypass to live long. Bypass to a long life is what? What's the bypass to a long life? You know, we said that the other road has what? Traffic, isn't it? Don't stay in that traffic. There is a bypass to long life. And the bypass to long life is what? Honor your parents. Bypass to avoid living under a curse. You know, we have preachers in this city, and you know, people know that there are desperate people out there. And so they will tell you, oh, you know, you may have been cursed. Oh, you know what? Bypass to blessings. Stop wasting time in deliverance classes. Just go honor that parent. Simple. Toka kwa jam. Come out of the traffic. Stop wasting time at the deliverance classes for curses. Just go and do what? Honor a parent. Help me tell your neighbor, just go honor your parent. You've been in that traffic for too long. So that children may continue to gain wisdom through the life, says, listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching. They will be gallant to grace your head and chain to adorn your neck. As we conclude, when God's order for the family is followed as far as the child-parent and parent-child relationships are concerned, there will be peace, there will be harmony, there will be growth, there will be blessings for all. Both young and old have a role to play in fostering good relationships in the family. I wonder whether you've been playing your part right. Of course, towards the end, we have the sibling-to-sibling relationship. Allow me to conclude by going back to what I said earlier, that God saw a fatherless Israel and he told them how to fix it. What did he tell them? Love the wife of your youth, he said, and turn your hearts back to your children. It is said of John the Baptist that he turned the hearts of the fathers back to the children. Luke 1:17. And under John's ministry, a revival began in Israel. I pray that revival will break forth in Sitam. I pray that revival will break forth when fathers begin, when husbands begin to love the wife of their youth, and when fathers turns their hearts to their children. It is in my opinion, this is Dr. James Dobson, and I quote, he says, "It is in my opinion that our very survival as people will depend upon the presence or absence of male leadership in millions of homes. And I believe with everything within me that husbands hold keys to preservation of the family." End of quote. Malachi 4:6 tells us he will turn the heart of the fathers to the children, to their children, and the hearts of their children to their fathers, or else I will come and strike the land with a curse. When God is saying his very last words, when God is speaking, he says his last words in Malachi 4:6, he will turn the hearts of the fathers to their children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. God finishes the Old Testament by talking about fathers and their children. Israel was in the midst of a fathering crisis, and the answer to Israel's problem lay at the feet of fathers. God's blessing was contingent upon the repentant hearts of fathers turned back towards their children. This is what God wanted to leave indelibly printed upon the minds of these children of Israel for 400 years. But 400 years later, God finally spoke again. Through the writer of the Gospel of Luke, we read about a rugged prophet named John the Baptist. John the Baptist was the first prophet from God after Malachi, after 400 years. John the Baptist declared the arrival of Jesus, the Messiah. It was said of John that he turned the hearts of fathers to their children. I don't know what you're hearing God say this, even as we have been looking at this subject, embracing healthy relationships in the family. I don't know. I don't know. The choir started us off with a song, and they said, "You are my brother, you are my sister, we are family, and we are one." And I end with Psalm 133, verse 1 to 3. How good and pleasant it is when brothers live together in unity. It is like precious oil poured on the head, running down the beard, running down Aaron's beard, down upon the collar of his robes. It is as if the dew of Haman were falling on Mount Zion, for the Lord bestows his blessing, even life forevermore. It's God's desire that if you are married, you remain married according to his word. It's God's desire that children are not raised in fatherless homes. It's God's desire to bring up a godly offspring. I would like us to make a commitment that we will commit to build strong and healthy relationships in the family. Probably this week, make time to go out with your son or daughter. Just a week ago, I decided to take my family out. And you know where we went? We went to watch Wakanda. Simunipigie makofi. And last week I decided, because on Sunday it was my daughter's birthday, and last year on my birthday, 12th of October, I was just sitting in the house, relaxing, wearing a short, and she wakes up in the morning, she tells me, "Dad, can you drop me in Westlands?" And I said, "No problem." So we got into the car, and she doesn't even tell me to change, because I didn't want to leave the house. I was wearing a short and a t-shirt, and I went with her to Westlands, thinking I'm dropping her. We arrived to a place, and she tells me, "Dad, just let's go in here for a minute." And I'm like, huh? She decides to treat me for a full breakfast. And I asked her, "You should have told me to change. How do I come to such an expensive restaurant in a short?" And she said, "Dad, if I would have asked you, you wouldn't have agreed." So last Sunday, I decided to pull a fast one on her. I asked Serena Hotel to deal with her the way she dealt with me. And they called her. They told her, "You have a package here to pick." And she was like, "Dad, can you drop me at Serena? I don't know. There's a package for me." I went there. I dropped her. She told me, "Can you wait for me?" I told her, "Let me just turn the car and as you pick." So I drove back here, and I left her there because I knew what was happening. Long story short, she was treated for a manicure, a pedicure, and all the cures. And I arrived there at 6:30 in the evening, and while she was being taken out, she found me seated in the restaurant, and I gave her a treat for her birthday. As you clap for me, make a commitment this week to take your child out. But also, if there is something that you are holding against your parents, it's time to let go. It's time to let go. If you know you've hurt also your children, even as you're seated here, it's time just to ask God to deal with you, to forgive you, to cleanse you. It's time to return back to God, because Malachi says he will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. Senior Pastor Reverend Charles Obara, come and just close it for us.
Thank you, Pastor Stanley. Let's appreciate him again.